Well, it's been another year. I can't wait for Lytane to make a video about us.
I hope it's about me. I'm sure to be the star of the video at least once, right?
We did have your name in my third game, isn't that something? Anyway, let's see what Lytane's up to. And that's the story of Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. Next time, we're gonna read Oddworld Abe's Exoddus and how he had to go all the way to a brewery to save the day. Well, it looks like I have hit 7 years on YouTube, which is a great and lucky number if I do say so myself, and I always want to pay tribute to the first video I ever made, Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. As you may have noticed, each year I have played and reviewed every Oddworld game to date, even the spin-off Game Boy games are on here. But this is the first time in my channel's history where I don't have anything new to talk about. So as a first for this channel, I wanted to do a retrospective on my experiences with the Oddworld series and how it has shaped my life and what I think about each game and my reviews on them. I've done a lot of series on my channel so far, like Steins Gate, Phoenix Wright, Utaware, Ramono, Danganronpa, which was insane, that had so many videos. Also Tarzan, Lion King, and Goosebumps, but at the end of these series, I never know where to put my final thoughts because in the final video, I feel like it'll make it just too long. So here we have my Oddworld retrospective. So what better place to start than with my history of the series, and as I've talked about before, I owned the first Oddworld game back when I was just a wee little tot. I was probably 9 or so when I first played it and fell in love with the series instantly. I still have nostalgic memories of this game, you know, waking up early and putting on the PlayStation before my parents woke up in order to get some game time in. I was always so paranoid when turning it on that the disc would make so much noise that it would just wake them up, or I would forget to turn the TV down and it would just blast that iconic PlayStation sound. But I know now that my parents would not have heard any of this, so I was just being paranoid for no reason. I was a kid, okay? To this day, I think the first game is a gem and should still be replayed. The graphics might not be to everybody's style, but the story is still relevant and the cutscenes still look fantastic. Aside from some crummy autosave spots and the trial by death gameplay, I'd say it's one of the best games on the PS1. But above all of that, it was the booklet that I loved. Seeing Elam and his stupid face and wondering who he was just got me excited to play the game. Seeing these paramites and scrabs and how deadly they looked before I saw one in-game, and the first time I met one in the stockade, it terrified me because it just totally destroyed me. I knew from then on, I probably shouldn't mess with these creatures. But it was that final page where it talks about the Quintology of games, which sparked so much joy. I couldn't wait to see who our next hero was, where the stories would go, and how the games would evolve. It really set off my imagination, and even today, I often think about it. It was pretty bold of Lorne Lanning, the creator, to have such ambition before the first game even came out. Like, who says that there's going to be 5 games in this series when the first one hasn't even released? It's just a shame that after 25 years of this series, we still only have the first 2 parts of the Quintology. My first ever review is pretty cringeworthy, but I'm very proud of it. You know, it's got me started on YouTube. I talked more in depth about my thoughts about this in my 100 episode video if you want to go check that out. Moving on to Exoddus. It came out and it confused me at first until I learned about it being a bonus game in the Quintology. So instead of a new hero, we get to play as Abe for a little bit longer. I call a little bit of BS as all the stories are connected, like you can't just skip this one and move on to Munch's Oddysee, but you know, whatever. I now know that this was also done because Sony saw money, cha-ching, and wanted to strike while the property was hot and demanded another game. As the assets were already made, a sequel was much easier to do, and it was very common to do this in the industry. For some reason, I didn't get this game on the PlayStation. I had rented it and played it, but my first full playthrough was many years later on the PC port. Once again, this is an amazing game, and in just about every way, Exoddus is better than Oddysee. The level design, the new emotions, the expanded possession, and farts. Like, farts make this game an 11 out of 10. But I couldn't help but see some of that rush development, and felt like the locations weren't quite as memorable as the first game. It seems to be a me thing though, as pretty much everybody in the world on the internet agrees that this game is better and likes it more, so I don't know. It was in this review that I started waffling on and putting a lot more information into my videos, and that can be a blessing and a curse. I personally think I've been doing a better job on the information to time basis, where most of my reviews are much shorter and not as drawn out. I still do like this review though, because I did get to go a bit more in depth about the series and why it was special, at least to me. Our next game is Munch's Oddysee, the first true sequel and the second game in the Quintology. I remember going to choir practice. Yes, I'm a nerd, I know. I'm also not a great singer. If you've ever seen my Aladdin videos, you will definitely believe that I'm not a good singer. But anyway, while my sister was at dance classes, my parents and I would go to the shopping center where I pretty much exclusively hung out in the games sections. Here they had an Xbox on display with a few games to demo, and one of those was Munch's Oddysee. Oh man, I played that demo of the second level so goddamn much, but I don't know if I ever really liked it. Still, I couldn't wait to play this until I found out it was an Xbox exclusive, and I already chose the PlayStation. It wasn't until a few years later when I got an Xbox 360 that I finally played this game, as it was backwards compatible. Yay! But then I quickly dropped it after a few levels because I just didn't enjoy it. I remember it not being optimized for the 360, so it did not run properly, but that doesn't excuse the controls being awkward, the settings being boring, and the gameplay lacking depth. I did eventually look up the cutscenes on the internet and just called it a day. I thought I'd never play it again. Until I had to do a review for it on this channel, where I pushed through the HD version. That version is so much better than the original, so that helped. And I even got the platinum, yeah! But I still didn't really like the game. I will stand by those cutscenes, they are fantastic, and I really wish we got more of Munch in his own game, and I really wish we got Munch's Exoddus, the one that was teased so many years ago. Before I made my review on this, I got these two plushies, which I've been using in every Oddworld video since. I love these guys, they're just fantastic, and they burp and fart, that's so dumb. Sadly, because Munch left a bad taste in my mouth, I lost interest in Oddworld, so when the next game, Stranger's Wrath, came out, I saw it was a spin-off and not part of the Quintology, so I just wasn't interested. It didn't help that it was a first/third person shooter, and I was like, meh, that's not Oddworld, where are the puzzles? Many years after its release, the HD version was given out for free on PlayStation Plus, where I finally gave it a go. I got a few levels in, and I thought it was fun enough, but I dropped it because I also got Uncharted at the same time, and can you blame me? Uncharted is fantastic. Once again, it wasn't until I had to review it for this channel that I gave it a proper go, and I was so happy I did. Stranger's Wrath is a great game. The combat is fun, the ammo system is unique, and the story is really interesting, and now I want to see Stranger appear in another game, but who knows if that'll ever happen. And as you can see, I also managed to get the platinum for this game, and from here on out I decided that I was going to platinum every Oddworld game, no matter how hard they would be. After Stranger's Wrath, a major problem arose. Oddworld Studios closed down. That means no more games, and the rumored ones were put on a shelf. Oh man, I still remember the teasers for Hand of Odd, Squeak's Oddysee, Munch's Exoddus, and they're still talked about to this day. And I thought that would be the end of the story, until I heard the exciting news when Oddworld would be coming back with the remake New and Tasty with their partners Just Add Water. Remaking the first game with updated graphics and a few new ideas put in was exciting. Maybe the series could come back and continue the Quintology. So New and Tasty came out, and it is an amazing game. The framework from the original still holds up, but most of the puzzles had to be changed and altered to fit that new dynamic camera that they introduced. I think it's a great game, and it has so many quality of life improvements that the series needed. If you really don't want to play the original, this makes for a perfect starting point. And like I said, the original still has value because the puzzles are different, but it isn't required if you just play this one. Oh, and of course, to show off, here's my platinum! It was only 2 years ago when I was struggling to think of what Oddworld video to make for my channel anniversary, when I remembered that the handheld games exist. Yay! Sure, the newest game, Soulstorm, would have been out before my anniversary, but I didn't think I'd have time to finish it and get a review out in a timely manner. You know, instead of writing trends, I did my own thing, which, never works on YouTube. Nobody watched these videos. I have to say, I had such low expectations expectations for the handheld games, but one of them really blew me away. Oddworld Adventures 2 on the Game Boy Color is a great game, and I definitely recommend it. It's far better than the first Adventures, which can go in a pit, and Munch's Oddysee is just okay on the Game Boy Advance, nothing special. I suppose that's one thing I have to be thankful for. I would never have played most of these Oddworld games if I didn't have my silly YouTube channel. I'm just so grateful for what I have on here, even if I'm not the most reliable uploader. I just want to say thank you to everyone, to the people that have been sticking around, to the new people that are just discovering me. If you've watched this far, that's pretty good. This is going to be a long video, and it really means a lot. If you could consider subscribing, that would really help me out. I'm uploading more regularly now. I guarantee at least one a month. So, if you subscribe, it'll definitely keep me motivated. With that tangent aside, Oddworld Soulstorm is the latest game to come out when making this video, and due to my huge backlog, I did not play this much at launch. But I'm glad I did wait though, as an enhanced edition was later made. It's just a patched version of the game, which fixed many problems on its launch. For the actual game though, I was a bit mixed on it. I liked the new art style, but I didn't like the lack of variety within it. I loved the characters, but I was shocked that no paramites or scrabs made a return. I liked how everything was redesigned, but I hated some of that design. Then there were things that were cut, such as emotions and the new possessions, and worst of all, no farts. 0 out of 10. I was a little flipped on this game, but one thing I did love was, once again, the story. It's always a swing and a hit with these guys. It was just told so well, and the emotion behind it, it's breathtaking. Also, look at these graphics. I think that Square Enix and Oddworld just make the best looking games on whatever system they make. I also didn't talk about this in my review, but there is a little side game where you get to play as Toby and see how he escaped Rupture Farms. He plays differently than Abe, as he can't craft and there's no double jumping, and it's a bit more set up to be a time attack mode with puzzle rooms. It was a fun little mode and added a tiny little bit more story for Toby. It isn't required to play though for this platinum, but I did it anyway. But regardless of my views on the game, one thing that shocked me to my core was about how Soulstorm was the new part 2 in the Quintology. Like, what? What happened to the original idea? And now that's got me worried, and yes, still a little excited for the future of this series. Now I have to question, will we see Munch or Stranger ever again? Will we be introduced to Squeak? Or, and I think this is going to be the most likely course of action, will Abe be the only fully main character through the entire Quintology and have partner characters as the story goes on? Like in the next game, maybe he teams up with Munch, but it's still an Abe game. Seeing as how Soulstorm ends with the idea of going to find Abe's mother, he is probably going to be part of the next game no matter what. And I get it, it makes sense. He is the face of the series, but I liked the original concept of following different protagonists, having their story, and maybe Abe as a side character. But think of it like this, what if the first phase of the Marvel movies were just Iron Man films, and each sequel added another character as a side character? Instead of building up a new character, seeing their strengths and weaknesses and what they would bring to the table, we instead get a lesser product because they aren't the focus, they're just kind of there. It would have made the Avengers less exciting, that's for sure. I really hope I'm wrong with the future of this series, because the next game is rumored to be the remake of Munch's Oddysee. And hopefully Munch can finally be a main character. And it would also build Munch up, so when we get to the end of the Quintology and all of these characters undoubtedly have to team up in some way, each of them has been fleshed out and has much more of a presence in the final, end of the series. Even though I can't see the future, I am still happy because I will be getting more Oddworld. And given their track record, they make some pretty good games, and if not, their stories are always phenomenal. The world Lorne Lanning crafted in these games is legitimately interesting, and I cannot wait to see more of it. And one day when I'm 92, I might see how this Quintology ends. So guys, that was my really long history and thoughts on Oddworld. When I sat down to write this, I had no idea what I was going to say, and this might be the longest video that I have made in a very long time. Just get me talking about Oddworld and I'll talk for days. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. And that must mean you do enjoy the Oddworld series. And it would legitimately make my day if you wrote your personal experiences, thoughts, and feelings in the comments below. I love reading what you guys have to say, and I tend to reply to pretty much everyone that comments on me because I just love chatting and, talking about things that I enjoy. Also, I mostly talk about video games on my channel, but if you want to talk about anything else, consider jumping onto my Discord. I don't know how to promote that. It's not something that's very easy for me, but if you jump on, we can chat there and you can ask about anything. We can talk about stuff like, I don't know, Marvel or Kingdom Hearts. That's another great series I'll have to talk about one day. Anyways, once again, thank you guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Can you read me the story of Oddworld? Gotta get him started young.